All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning. Happy Friday. So excited to have all of you here. Welcome to our program that we're going to have today with Mr. Mike Gellman. So excited to have this conversation with you and to talk about this important topic to all of us, right? Especially this casual conversation where we'll be able to talk about kind of the industry of talent development, careers, kind of strategies, and what it looks like going forward. So before we get started with that, let me talk to you about a couple things that we have on our calendar coming up. So, let me introduce myself first. So I am Gwen Franco. I am Programs Director for our San Diego chapter. I'm very excited to have all of you here. I am Programs Director currently, but I will be President-elect next year. So very, very excited to serve the chapter in that way. So a couple upcoming events that we have is next week, Wednesday, October 21st at 5:45 p.m. We have our ATD Southern California virtual networking mixer, and that will be with the LA chapter, the Orange County chapter, and our chapter. And it's designed for us to network with those different chapters, and we'll be in some breakout rooms, meet some talent development professionals throughout those chapters, and really just enjoy ourselves. So please sign up for that. And on Thursday, October 29th at 12 p.m., so this is a lunch and learn. This is engaging learners with simple online simulation games. So our presenter will be showing us how to create a simulation through a platform called Miro. So should be really fun and really informative. So I will be putting the link in the chat of our events calendar. So be sure to check it out. We have lots of events still planned for the rest of the year. So please sign up and attend, and thank you for being here today. The other thing that I'd like to make a plug for is you may have received an email for our annual survey. I will be putting the link for that also in the chat. Our annual survey is an opportunity for you to give us some feedback and to help us in our 2021 program planning to ensure that we're meeting your needs as members. So please take the time to complete that survey and give us your feedback. Let's see, where am I at now? I'm going to introduce Mike now. I'm done with all that, okay? So let me introduce Mike and tell you about our presenter, our speaker that we're about to have. So Mike has spent 11 years in a Fortune 500 company as an organizational consultant and career coach, overseeing talent management and succession planning. So he's worked with executives, business owners, and employees to help facilitate succession planning, high potential leader development programs, and employee engagement and organizational change efforts. He created a nationally recognized award-winning mentorship program for our chapter that's recently celebrated its 20-year anniversary for developing future leaders. And he is an APC certified coach with a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology and teaches interpersonal communication as an adjunct instructor. So he is also the author of Pipe Dreams, 7 Pipelines of Career Success, and the creator of Career Catapult 4 Essentials of Career Mastery. So very excited to have Mike lead this conversation about frontiers and careers in the talent development field. Mike, I hand it over to you now. But before we do that and he starts to share his screen, I would love to take a picture of the group. So if you would like to turn on your camera at this point, or if you want to look and smile, I'm going to take a picture of everybody so that we have this. And then Mike will get started.
Let's see. Right. Enough about special compensation. I think you already asked this.
All right, big pause, everyone. 1, 2, 3.
Fall under special compensation.
Beautiful.
I'm not familiar with what.
I'm going to mute. Go ahead, Mike.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be here, and thank you for the introduction, Gwen. And it's nice to be back home somewhat, having lived in San Diego for 20 years. I used to be very active in your chapter, and so it's nice to see some familiar faces as well. So I'm here really this morning to facilitate some conversation. I have a few slides to share, but the intent's not to go through a whole slide deck. I'll share with you some trends, some future jobs, and we'll have some discussion around that. And you'll have an opportunity to share kind of what's going on for you right now? Kind of what type of impacts are you having? And what are the implications of some of these trends? And what are you seeing in your respective organizations? Or if you're in transition, maybe in your previous roles or in your job search, what are the things that you're noticing? So with that, I thought we would just start before I share my screen with just kind of where's everyone at right now in terms of the COVID-19 or in terms of your career. How's it impacting you?
Through the chat, Mike, or?
You can use a chat or just, yeah, just conversation. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So thankfully I'm working at Coca-Cola now, and I moved to Southern California in February, right before COVID hit. And I'm still able to work remotely out of our headquarters in Atlanta, which has been really great, and I'm grateful for it. But yeah, we're doing major restructuring. So our whole learning organization is getting redesigned from the ground up. And that will open up opportunities. Some people will be impacted, but I think I've secured my role in that new organization. So fingers crossed.
All right. Yeah, hopefully so.
Mm-hmm.
How about others?
I'm the program coordinator of leadership programs at Point Loma Nazarene University. And this is a new position for me and actually a new role for the programs. And I started in January. And my boss told me when we first started, she's like, yeah, you might have some opportunities to work from home at some point. The hours are kind of flexible, but we'll work through that, as the position grows. And well, here we are 6 months, 7 months later. And I've been pretty much working from home from the get-go, really. I think I had like 1 month in the office to kind of get things under my belt, and then we went remote. So it's been kind of a learning curve, but I'm learning so much about technology and the things that we can do through technology, which has been really interesting and nice to grow in that area. We've been doing a lot of virtual events. Zoom is our platform for everything. All of our students are online right now, which for our program, we had an online program already. And then we also had a hybrid program. So we were pretty lucky for our program where we were able to adjust pretty quickly to going fully online, where other programs didn't have that online modality. And so it was a really big adjustment for them. We're doing pretty well, and our students are doing well given the circumstances. And so, yeah, it's been very interesting.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jenna. Yeah, are others experiencing the same thing, or maybe we have time for maybe one more person that wants to chime in where they're at?
Hi, Ben. I'm Chris with Titus, and we've been remote for the last 10 years, so it's not been a big change with us. It's more of how are we serving our clients. Can you hear me? Right. Okay. And helping them navigate and keep the human and human resources, if you will, on a kind of a remote environment. And so just been helping trying to reframe generosity. What does it look like to be generous, and to have training around empathy and active listening, to do what we can to kind of reach through the line and making sure that it's still a human connection. And so those soft skills have never been more important, I think, to make sure that we develop trust and maintain rapport, from engagement to retention to recruiting, all of that. So it's been an interesting way to coach and self-reflect as well, but it's been a topic of interest unlike ever before. So
yeah, thanks for sharing, Chris. Yeah, in fact, one of the trends that I pulled up, and I'll share it in just a moment here, is around the workplace wellness and the employee experience, kind of similar to what your customer experience journey would be, the employee experience journey. And so, and COVID has accelerated some of that. So I'm going to share just a couple slides. We'll have some discussion around it with some trends. So this was based on an article earlier this year about some human resources trends. Some of them are, training, HR, the HR field. And so worker well-being, I mentioned earlier. Is everyone able to see this? Yeah. There's a lot of discussion around the human bot blending. And so I'm curious if any of you put in the chat if maybe your role involves either setting up some of the chat bots or some type of, there's decision-making bots, there's career coaching bots, there's different types of bots out there for recruiters as well. In fact, what company was it recently? DBS Bank was able to reduce their review time from 32 minutes per application, from 32 minutes to 8 minutes using the combination of bot technology, right? And so the more I researched this, the more that kept coming up consistently on the recruiting end of things. So it's something to be mindful of. It's just like we have blended learning. There's going to be kind of the back end processes as well to have a blended approach. So the use of, again, more artificial intelligence applications. Schneider Electric is a great example. They have this whole talent mobility platform. And what they use it for is really, they call it open talent market. And what they use it for is to help individual employees identify other jobs within the company. What are their core competencies or skills? And there's a matching process involved for potential jobs. There's a matching process involved for potential mentors, both ways, for them to be a mentor potentially for someone and for them to obtain a mentor. Stretch assignments and gigs, this is where it starts getting more into the learning and development field. It will suggest to them, here are some stretch assignments you might want to use. Here are some potential part-time opportunities within your organization. And been integrated it with their LMS. So it'll even pull in, here are some training courses and whatever you might have. If you have a corporate university or whatever your learning and development function is, your talent development function is, it integrates with that. So we're seeing, they're kind of on the leading edge of this. It's a custom program, but we're seeing more of these integrations of AI as it relates to learning. Chris, you were mentioning kind of empathy. That's certainly one of the top skills. So one of the trends around power skills, what's been, McKinsey has a kind of a model around the 5 C's, and that was communication, collaboration, kind of cultural competency, creativity, critical thinking. I think those were the 5. And then there were also some other ones on top of that, such as agility, right? That was mentioned, and just being able to adapt, right? Adaptability and EQ types of things, right? The empathy comes in as just EQ is one of those. So these are skills that are certainly amplified, right, by COVID. And I'm seeing this with many of my executive coaching clients. Right now, I'd have to say that 3 out of 4 of my executive coaching clients, they're all struggling with managing their remote workforce. Because they're like, Mike, I'm used to just showing up by the water cooler, so to speak, and engaging my people in that way. And now I feel that's been taken away from me. It's just not the same, right, with Zoom and all of that. So that's a common theme. And I'm curious what you're seeing in your organization, so feel free to add that into the chat. So workplace environment audit. So one of the things I did at SoCal Gas when I was there was, one of my clients was the facilities department. And we would have conversations all the time about how the physical work environment affects productivity and performance, right? And that's not something brand new. That's been around, right? Human factors engineering, that's been around for a while. But one new aspect of this that we were paying attention to were things like air quality, right? And now with all the California wildfires going on, people are very, very aware. I mean, I have an app, there's an AQI app on my phone that, you know, gives us the air quality. So right now in Irvine, it's 76, right, which is a moderate. If you're below 50, you know, particles, right, 2 point, well, I won't get into all the details, but, you know, so there's a trend towards this, but in the workplace. So research has shown by the air quality being poor, people aren't as productive or they're sleepier or whatnot. And so, so how might this be incorporated? What are the implications for learning, right? And we've often paid attention to that in our traditional classrooms, kind of an environment, kind of that creating a space where it's conducive to learn. When you had music playing earlier, right? How does that play? So these are all environmentals that we in the talent development field have actually often already paid attention to, but now it's becoming more of a model type of thing, and they'll be looking for those skills. And actually, as we get into some job titles, I'll share with you, there's some that relate to that, so you may find that interesting. BR for training, that's another trend as well. So kind of the whole sense of immersive. And now that we're in this COVID-19, there's even more of an opportunity for that to be accelerated. So there's organizations that are using that. For example, Verizon is one of my clients, and they are using it to train store managers for safety. Like, you know, in the case of robberies, and this is mentioned by the author, Meister of the article slide, but he cites how they use it for managers on how to deal with a situation of being robbed, and they use VR as that approach to help with the training. This is also something, blended learning. So one of the things that on-demand coaching, blending it with on-demand coaching, and I was talking about this last night actually with the ATD LA chapter, creating a coaching culture. And one of the things is with coaching combined with training really helps to increase the transfer of learning, the application that's being learned in terms of skill development dramatically, right? You probably know the statistics better than I do about what the drop is. Walks out of a traditional career, or they finish a webinar, and how much they retain. With coaching added in, it definitely accelerates that. And so some of the organizations that provide on-demand coaching, there's some that I do for Lee Harris, an organization called Ezra, and that is on-demand coaching. And so it gives employees and empowers them to take more ownership of their learning. And a lot of them, what they're doing is they're attaching coaching to, for example, a cohort. So you might have a high potential program and attaching learning to that. So that's something that I've been offering as well within my own business, and finding there's a lot of interest in having that marriage between the two. A trend is around the recruiting for skills. So for example, companies like Google and Apple have said, you know, we're not going to necessarily require a degree now. that's certainly a fact. They're going to be focusing more on skill-based screening, for candidates. And so what are the implications for us, the professionals, both in the hiring process, but also in what we might have on the development side once they've been onboarded. And then the workplace experience is another trend. And so I spoke to that a little bit earlier, but the journey someone has from the time they apply for a job at a company to the time that they're onboarded, right? So those different phases, when they're working or developed while the job, to the time when they're ready to retire, or when they're getting ready just to leave or move. So what's that experience? So those are things there. I want to take it off of the share so we can see each other and have a discussion. What are your thoughts around these trends, and what are you seeing? Do you agree with these? Are you seeing these? Or what surprises you?
I'm seeing all of those. Nothing was super surprising. I think the well-being thing being at the top is definitely something that I'm seeing more of a focus of, because work and your life at home are so integrated now. And we're trying to take a much more active approach at making sure people are taking care of themselves and taking necessary breaks, and putting in place specific days to just focus with no meetings and just things like that, because it can get Zoom fatigue, and those of us with kids and pets and parents or whatever coming in and out, it's a lot to juggle. So the well-being piece is something we're focusing on a lot.
Yeah. How about others? You've seen.
Mike, this is Russell. I'm with Kaiser Permanente. And the ones that are resonating with my experience is around leader well-being, because my department, we're focused on leader development. The power skills or soft skills, we've got quite an emphasis on that. We're actually just now rolling out a short webinar series on behaviors of cohesive teams, based on Patrick Lencioni's work. And the other one that resonated with me is we haven't gotten there yet, but we have an established cohort program that we've done for 2 years. We had to basically cancel it this year because we didn't have enough time to transition it to virtual. But the coaching aspect sounds really interesting. That's something that we've talked about, but we're just not there yet. Maybe next year.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
How about others? What are you seeing? What trends? What are you experiencing? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move into some fun job titles that we may see in the future. Hopefully you can see my screen. So within the next 5 years, right, we are likely to see some of these titles on the left, right? Employee enablement coach, chief purpose officer, director of well-being, right? What stands out for you?
Definitely more humanizing the workplace. Yeah. Definitely still, with digital, but a complement to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So distraction prevention coach. That's really interesting. Do you know more about that? How it was described?
Yeah. So I mean, nowadays with social media, for example, and now companies have their own internal, the Microsoft Teams or their own internal Facebook type of programs. We're getting pinged all over the place. So really just helping people prioritize and just, kind of address those things. There's also now, because of some of the inclusion initiatives in the workplace, right? The DI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI initiatives, we're having kind of a broader spectrum of people in terms of their ability to focus on things and not. And I've just seen, even with myself over the years, I always prided myself on being super disciplined and super focused. And I catch myself all the time now, right? Oftentimes it's easy to become distracted by so many notifications and pings and all of that. But it's interesting that it's being seen that that will actually be a specialty. And it's something you can look up. The genetic diversity officer, that was really interesting. Again, this relates to the cultural competence and DEI initiatives, that they're anticipating that someone will actually be looking at the gene pool of the workforce to make sure that we have good representation.
Wow.
And that we're not discriminating.
Hmm.
As organizations, that we're not discriminating against that. And so that's really interesting, because then you start looking at potentially at, I would imagine, medical records and workers' compensation, workers' comp claims, or other sources. So really, really interesting. Human network analyst is really just like with IT. There's there's business analysts and other types of analysts. Well, human networking, right? I remember doing this more manually, right? Just in a large group setting. Who's talking to who, right? And kind of understanding the power dynamics and the way communication flows. Does it flow through one person? Does it flow through a clique? A small group? Are there different camps? And we used to kind of do that. But now there's going to be a little more emphasis on where do people naturally convene, right? You have companies mining data, for example, around emails, right? This has been happening probably 10 years. Looking for themes. What are people talking about? What's the chatter, right? Kind of what's the word cloud that's going on in the organization. So those are some things in the next 5. And then on the right, you're seeing some additional roles that are anticipated. Kind of a work from home facilitator, a future of work leader, right? So take a look at those. You'll see chatbot and human facilitator. There's actually a law, you may or may not be aware. In 2019, California passed a law saying that companies need to disclose when someone is talking to a bot versus a human, versus a real human. I don't know how many people are following that. But as bots get smarter and AI gets even more intuitive, it'll be interesting. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I've gotten a couple spam phone calls recently, and they have sounded really, really, really close to humans. And I've had to, the only reason I could differentiate was there was something in the tone, and then the question that I asked didn't quite match up with their answer. But I had to really focus, and it took me a little bit to understand that it wasn't a human that I was talking to. So they're definitely getting really, really close to human form, so to speak.
Yeah, it's getting better. And we have things just like personal assistants, right? That was a lot of my research. How many of you have like Alexa or something like that, at home? You have one of those home systems. Obviously, many of us use Siri or whatnot if you have the Apple. But yeah, with respect to the talent development field, what are some things that you anticipate we'll see in terms of future jobs or potential career paths?
So I think this is really exciting and honestly just makes sense in the direction we're going in. And it reminds me a little bit of how 20 plus years ago, we didn't really have org dev departments or talent development. And so it was either just not really thought about in an organization, or all of that was put onto the leader, right? And so they had to work through all of those steps. And when my company created an org dev department, prior to that, the leader had to do all of the day-to-day management and the project management and do all of the people development. And until talent development was there, that was a lot to put on one person. And so I'm seeing a lot of that now. And what we were talking about earlier, especially with well-being, is that we are in a space we have never been in before. And so the leaders are really trying to facilitate the well-being of their employees, which they should do and we should be doing as leaders. But we also need that support from someone who is skilled and well-versed in that area to provide that additional resource and say, look, this is how you can better help your people, and this is how we're going to support you. And I honestly, this makes so much sense, and I truly hope this is the direction we go in.
Yeah, thanks, Patrice.
Yeah.
How about others?
So I would agree with Patrice. It is really exciting to see. We are seeing a trend toward, I've been in learning for most of my career, and seeing a trend toward more broadening and expanding into the capability building space in general, not just focusing on training as the solution, right? And looking at performance more broadly and how upskilling and reskilling can help enable the business to achieve its strategy, and having to be much more data oriented, like almost like we all have to be data scientists, so that then the data can drive and inform our decisions around what the right solution is and whether we've affected, and achieved our objectives. So I think data will continue to be a focus. I see a little bit of that in here, HR data detective.
Yeah. And I can reaffirm that for example, evidence-based decision-making, things like that are definitely going to be increasing that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else would like to chime in?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback Tina's comment. I agree. I feel like what we're seeing in the marketplace now is we all need to be multifaceted. It's like a little bit of everything. And that tells me that companies are really redefining and repurposing what their teams are doing. Oops, I'm not sure if I'm getting cut off here. So yeah, just definitely in agreement. So it's like we need to be that data sourcer. We need to be able to be an ID and put things together, and to be leading the teams and just continue to be that face for the company. I know when the pandemic first hit, we had a lot of effort at the company I was with at the time, with, the communications team of, how to work from home. And then we were supporting that, making videos for them and best practices. And then it was just, I think I came in when someone was talking about, managing the balance of the emails and the communication. So it's like knowing that you're supported, but then not being overwhelmed by that support. So it's like you're doing your facilitation, you're going to a meeting, you're watching this video, you're having to, follow through, the workplace by Facebook, internal chat, and all of that. So to me, what I'm sensing is there's a lot of overwhelm going on right now, and companies are really trying to leverage the people in the company to be able to support that and be the face, but create a lot of new things right on the spot. Micro-learning and quick pivoting to continue providing the services that we are, without dropping the ball.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bridget. Yeah, what I'd love to do is I'm going to break you guys up into, or Gwen's going to help facilitate this. We're going to have some just breakout discussions, and what I invite you to discuss, about 7 minutes you'll have. We'll have groups of 3 or 4. And discuss, so based on some of these trends, what do you see next for you, for your career? What do you see as a path for you, for next steps in your career or for your colleagues? Have a discussion around that and identify what might be some next steps for you to further your talent development career. So Gwen, you can. Hello.
Hey,
Just the
I'm,
two.
Cindy was just sharing and I got bumped out of our room. She was just known you for years and volunteered with the chapter. Oh, we'll have to connect with her after offline.
Sure, yeah. Welcome back, everyone. We'll wait for everyone else to come back. All right, I think we've got everyone back now. Just about, yeah.
That is a cool feature and a first I've ever used in Zoom. So thank you.
Really?
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's I'm so glad that you experienced it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, and it's great because you can replicate what you do in the classroom too, right? And then in a workshop, have your breakout groups. So it's pretty amazing. So yeah, feel free to share what were some of the themes that you heard in your conversations with your different groups.
I feel like all of us, well, most of us were kind of thinking about pivoting or expanding, I guess, was kind of one of our themes, like recognizing the need to add to our toolbox or to go back and pursue a passion. And we're like all at kind of an inflection point, it felt like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the opportunity for expansion. What else came up?
I think there was a really strong theme of just humanity. Like, how do we keep the human element and actually lean into that? Because that's what really keeps people engaged and retained and feeling like their work truly is aligned with who they are. You know, it's a simple thing. I don't know, Gwen, I think you said it was so simple, we make it complex. The human element of gratitude, of generosity, of just thinking about someone else the way we would think about a neighbor. You know, and but putting something in place and a process in place so that it's repeatable, it's sustainable and scalable. You know, assigning a certain generosity person that just loves to give gifts and shout people out and find out what anniversaries or what hard times. So like, you know, the pain and the pleasure of life, those are the two moments we can really influence someone. So that I think was the kind of tone of our conversation.
Yeah, interesting. As you were talking, it brought up for me the 5 love languages. So anyone ever heard or read that book?
Gary Chapman.
These core needs, right? And you know, how do we get those needs met, right? Particularly in this changing environment. How about the other groups? What came up? How many groups did we have, Gwen? We had 3? Okay, great. All right, so I'd like to just leave the rest of the time just for any questions that you may have, just Q&A or any other observations or thoughts.
This has been really helpful. Thank you, Mike. I love looking at the trends of the future and kind of getting our heads around how we prepare for that. And it's not just us going through these new role evolutions, it's the people that we support.
Absolutely.
So we have to be kind of on the forefront of that change.
Yeah, absolutely.
A comment. I was just curious if there's any jobs out there that, or any courses out there that they think would be helpful for people in the job market.
If you want to chime in, courses you found helpful. What kind of area, Diane?
Well, in training and development, you know, that's what I've been doing. So I just don't know, like there's a lot of certifications. I go through all these questions in my mind, what would be most valuable? You know, when you're unemployed for 6 months, you're like, what's the next step, you know?
We'll see. And do you have kind of a bank of certifications already, or?
No, I don't. Because like I said, I've been doing the same thing for so long that weren't required. So the things that I did were basically for hospitality, which is, you know, like human trafficking training. That's not going to do me any good anywhere else, right? So certain things were very specific to the hotel industry. So I'm trying to expand and don't know which direction. I mean, you could go a million different ways, but which, you know, is going to be most beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thoughts from the group? Certifications you found helpful?
I see Tina put in the chat, it's a volunteer career support network to help talent and learning professionals, and she's put the link in there, and they'll be posting virtual programming and hosting events and talent fairs. So thank you, Tina, so much for posting that in the chat.
No problem. Bridget, I think you were in our recent summit that we're having, and we're gearing up for another one, but it's just a group of people that care about people in our profession that are trying to help them find their passion and get the right opportunities. And so far it's been really, and Trish was there too. Yeah. So far it's just been really amazing to be a part of. So that's the link. We have a LinkedIn page and all kinds of material posted there.
Sounds like a great resource. Awesome. And then also feel free to reach out to me. I don't know if when you could put some of those links in the chat. LinkedIn, reach out to me there and connect with me there, or she'll put my email in there as well. And then also, if you have interest in your own career exploration, deeper dive, my Pipe Dreams book is a resource on Amazon. You can check that out as well, Pipe Dreams. So, but other than that, it was great having you all here, and I'm going to turn things back over to Gwen for any final comments or remarks to close this out.
No, I have no closing comments other than to thank Mike so much for facilitating this conversation, and thank you all for joining us this Friday morning and for sharing and for finding support in our community. I hope to see you at future events, and please have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Nice meeting you all.